at times, so at times, I thought that cancellations or pushback time was because I wasn't as important as anything else, right? Okay, this is not as valuable to Elle as it is to me. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Cre8 Podcast. My name is Anthony Rudolph and my co-host, Mrs.
K.L. Jones.
Welcome, guys. We love being here with you guys. So today on episode, I have the honor of kind of like interviewing my girl over here, my sister, because it is Lupus Awareness Month, and we know that you are an amazing lupus survivor. So I want to, kind of get into your brain and figure out how have you conquered being a creator, being an entrepreneur, being a mom, being a wife, being everything, but still kind of battling. And let me ask you this: should I call it a disease, or what should I refer to it as?
Lupus is a disease.
Okay.
I don't want to frame, we all things positive here, right?
All things positive.
But I think, a lot of times there's a missed opportunity to really drive home the importance of why lupus awareness education is so important.
Okay.
So we're going to talk real.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I use the right terminology.
Mm-hmm.
But I know over the years it's been a lot of ups and downs and left hooks and right hooks and jabs and a few uppercuts. Right, a few uppercuts that almost took you out. Some TKOs almost took you out. So I wanted to kind of dive into really, how have you been able to get to a point where you're still sitting here today, living and thriving and keep going, right?
Yeah.
And so let's go back to when you discovered you had lupus.
Wow.
Yeah, let's go back.
Let's go back. That journey was really a long one.
Right.
Because I could remember, once I got diagnosed, then I started being really intentional about okay, when did you first started experiencing these symptoms? And the truth is, my senior year of high school, I had a situation where it was, I think it was homecoming. We were getting ready for homecoming, and I went to my hairstylist, and I was getting my hair relaxed at the time. And I remember that day after I got my hair done, and in the days after, my hair was coming out. And I was so mad because she had a new assistant, and I felt like the assistant had left the relaxer in my hair too long, and that's why my hair was falling out. But what I discovered as my hair was falling out is that I had these purple lesions, bruises on my scalp. And I was like, that ever burned my scalp? I was heated. My mom was upset. My stylist, she apologized. She was like, I assure you, she tried to do everything that she could to help. And so then I went off to college. I went to Virginia, to Norfolk State University. And I could just remember periods where I had bouts of extreme fatigue.
Yeah.
Pushing through college. My first year, I was just in shambles. I just did whatever. I think part of that was rebellion or whatever. But it wasn't until after I graduated college, had went back home to Ohio for a little bit and then moved to Arizona.
Okay. After
I had my second child, and she was about 3 weeks old. And I had a series of different things going on. Some was dealing with my female health, my feminine health, and I had to have surgery. But then I would just get injured very easily. I would get lesions, really bad burns on my arm. And at first I started noticing every time I would go out or be exposed to the sun, something would happen with my skin. Then just little stuff. I was working in telemarketing, and actually I was working as a 411 operator.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I left telemarketing.
I talked to you a few times.
I'm pretty sure. And just typing, my wrist was hurting really bad. So I had gone to the emergency room to get it checked out. And the emergency room physician there at the time, I had one of the lesions on my arm. And so this was about 1996. And he said, how long have you had lupus?
Oh, wow.
Now, up to that point, I had never even heard of
Yeah.
that. Like, that was a foreign term to me. And I said, excuse me. And he, so he made the assumption that I had lupus. And here I am thinking, like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so he was just like, you need to get that checked out. I'm pretty sure that's lupus. That started my very long journey of going back and forth to different doctors, specialists, having all kind of labs done. And I was told everything from you have eczema to psoriasis to it's an allergy to it's in your head. And my diagnosis, my official diagnosis, didn't come for 6 years after that.
So how did that land for you? So you're going through doctors, you're getting diagnosed, misdiagnosed, saying that it's basically made up, right? It's in your head. But when you finally got the diagnosis saying this is lupus after 6 years, what was your mindset? How did that land for you? What was the immediate first thought that you had when they say, you know what, it is lupus?
Denial.
Denial.
Yeah.
Why denial?
I was young.
Yeah.
Like I was 27. No, I was 26.
Okay.
So it was the beginning of the year that I was turning 27. I was living in New York City with my girls, and I was pursuing my dreams. I was singing, I was acting. I had landed a role in a Broadway musical by Vi Higginson. And if you don't know who she is, Google her. She's like a legend in Harlem and, theatrical productions. And I just was like, this is the time of my life. I had gone through a bad breakup with my ex, and which was, the children of my father. And I just was like, this is cruel. Yeah. So for me, it was just like, nah, not me. Yeah. Even though I knew I had things going on, I just wasn't ready to accept that diagnosis.
So did you go through the stages of grief?
Absolutely.
Like first it was denial.
Yep.
That's one stage, and then what was the next stage after that?
Anger.
Huh?
Anger. And the denial lasted for a really long time.
Really?
Like we talk about the stages of grief, but we don't talk about like how long each stage might last. And obviously for each person is different. But when I did get the proper diagnosis, it came on the heels of me blacking out on my lunch break. And my coworkers panicking and calling the paramedics and then being taken to the hospital. Yeah. And thankfully that day, the physicians that were in the ER had enough wherewithal to recognize a number of the different symptoms and then order tests. Yeah. And we'll get into it, I'm sure, at some point during this episode. But just as a caveat, lupus is really difficult to diagnose. So there's not one specific test. Hence the reason why, on average, it takes 4 to 7 years before a patient gets a proper diagnosis. Yeah. So that being misdiagnosed for 6 years is kind of unfortunately the norm that you'll hear from other lupus warriors and thrivers who, have been diagnosed as that they know something is wrong but not getting those answers. So, but for me, the denial lasted a really long time, and then there was fear and anger. And I remember the moment that I had to tell my mom, but I couldn't tell her until I had kind of accepted, if you will. Yeah. And then when I started sharing just a little bit within my inner circle or talking to people about it, everything that I heard was doom and gloom and death. Right. So it would be, oh, yeah, I heard of that before. My cousin's sister had it, or my neighbor's friend's dog's cat had it. And the end result was always they died.
They died, yeah, they had it. Yeah.
And so then that just pushed me further back into this, like, I don't have that.
Yeah. Yeah, your perspective on lupus is pretty empowering, right? Because you say that I'm a lupus survivor, right? Not, I have lupus. No. A friend of mine called me on Wednesday. Was yesterday? Was Wednesday? Whatever, I don't know.
No,
but anyway,
2 days ago.
2 days ago. So we were supposed to have a meeting on Wednesday, right? And couldn't find him, wasn't returning text message. I'm like, what's going on? So he texted me and said, hey, I've been in the hospital because my wife has been diagnosed with aggressive lupus, and it's attacking her kidneys, right? And I'm like, and I immediately thought of you, right? I'm like, well, I can put you in contact with someone who's an advocate that can help, right? But this was just like 2 days ago. Wow. And my next question is that how many people actually live with lupus?
In the United States, it's estimated that approximately 1.5 million Americans live
So it's kind of rare.
with lupus, and worldwide it's 5 million. And the frustration is that people say it's rare because they don't know.
Right.
It's rare because there's not enough education, but there are more and more. That's just a
Approximate.
ground level
So people are living
approximate.
with it, but they're just not diagnosed with it.
They're not diagnosed with
Okay.
it because we go back to the misdiagnosis, right?
Right.
Unfortunately, one of the things we call lupus the disease with many faces because it can mimic a lot of different conditions and diseases, thus making it even harder
Right.
to diagnose. So like with cancer or diabetes or heart disease, there's a test, like there's a specific test or series of tests that doctors order that can quickly identify, oh, you have a tumor here, or oh, you have cancer cells here. With lupus, it's not that way. There are several different markers, and then they give you a list of like 10 things. And if you only have 4 on the list, then they say, nope, you don't have lupus. But like if you have 6, then it's, oh, you're borderline. But then if you have more than, you know what I'm saying? So there's been a lot of work and advocacy that has driven the work to where we're, where we get today, where we, legislative, there's people going on Capitol Hill, really rallying for legislation because when you go through medical school, as a med student, lupus is not something that was traditionally taught. So if you have a patient that presents with these different symptoms and then they go to the emergency room, a lot of times there's no protocol in place, or, traditionally back then, there was no protocol in place to like really be able to identify and say, okay, this patient is presenting with these symptoms, then let's investigate and go deeper with this. So there's, without getting too technical and scientific, there's something like an ANA called an ANA panel, double-stranded DNA, all of those things paint a full picture. It's like having a blank canvas. And imagine having, what do the kids have where they have the paint by numbers, or the picture is already drawn, but you still got to paint. Number 2 is blue. Number 3 is green, right? So then you don't get to see the full picture until you get all those pieces in place. And that's kind of what it is, what it's like with the testing.
Does lupus affect a certain demographic more than other?
Absolutely.
Okay, talk about that.
I'm a black woman.
Okay, really?
Yes, and I love being a black woman, but I am, black women are at the highest risk. Black women, in fact, are impacted by lupus almost 5 times more than their white counterparts. We do not know.
Really?
We don't know. There's black women, Latino women, and Asian and Pacific Islander women in that order, and then Caucasian women.
My friend is Hispanic.
Yeah. So with that said, though, that doesn't mean, and then they're women of childbearing age. So usually the diagnosis comes somewhere between 14 and 45. But there are instances and cases where outside of that, there are men who live with lupus. You have Nick Cannon, right? And usually what happens with men, and again, it's just really a baffling medical thing, but it affects their kidneys 10 times more than a woman who gets the disease.
Wow.
So it is just, it is I wouldn't wish it on anyone because it can be debilitating. And lupus looks different for each person. It looks different for each person. I was just watching an interview that Toni Braxton had done on a news show, morning news show. And she was talking about how recently she had an episode, we call them flares or episodes, that landed her in the hospital. And now, after all of these years of living with lupus, she has some kidney involvement.
Wow.
So it's just really unpredictable. You can, on the out, we had somebody in the studio earlier and we were talking about this and they were like, you got what? Like, you don't even look sick. And that's always been the thing. You don't look sick. And so we had to start having these conversations about, like, what does being sick look like? Like, what do you expect to see when somebody is sick? Because sick doesn't just look one way. It's not the frail person who's losing their hair. And I've been there. But, seeing me on the street or even when we're in the studio every week filming, unless I tell you, you don't know that I'm dealing with a flare or something that's going on.
Well, like today, you said that I don't feel well. Right?
I don't feel well.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So, how are you feeling?
Tired. I'm like
Okay.
really exhausted. So I'm trying to make sure my energy,
Yeah. You're good.
my
Yeah.
energy is up. But I'm dealing with a lot of pain. I've been
Okay.
dealing with a headache for probably about 4 or 5 days
Yeah.
now, and some severe back pain. So inflammation and I've completely changed my diet as
Yeah.
a result of lupus, like my lifestyle, not just a diet. So I've been vegan for almost 2 years now.
Actually, it's been 3 days.
Shut up. Yeah. Listen,
It's been 3 days since you've
check
been
your
vegan.
friends, check your inner circle. Make sure they are not trying to sabotage your diet. Don't have a brother like me. Have a brother like me who treated me to lunch, but what he did not do was ensure that my drink was dairy free. So yeah, your girl had a drink that I thought was safe, and it had dairy in it, and I've
Well,
been shook ever
yeah.
since.
I treated her to a mango lassie, but I forgot that you were vegan. But
It's okay, because
I'm
usually
sorry.
I always ask
Yeah,
questions first,
yeah.
and I think I was just so hungry.
So
that
I think I
day.
just reset your 2
No, I'm
years.
still vegan.
Still
I went home and detox.
Well, now I know. So now I haven't put oat milk in it next time. Well,
Thank
it
you.
probably won't taste as good, but I
Oat
haven't
milk
do
is the jam.
no-
Just make sure it's not almond, because I'm allergic to almonds.
I was-
Y'all heard it here. So if I show up on
no.
set with my face all swollen,
You know
then
why?
y'all know Anthony just,
You know why? Okay.
sabotage me again.
Well, you never know. I mean, because I don't want to say that you hide it well, but you don't show that you're experiencing anything physically or mentally.
You always look amazing.
Thank you.
Jay,
Shout out to
man.
our director, Jay
Jay,
Boogie.
I always look amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, you don't show it, and I don't know if that's really okay or not okay, right? Because it's like if you're feeling tired, I mean, I know, like I said, I mean, the show must go on,
Yeah.
right? But do you sometimes put yourself in the show and when you don't need to, or do you sometimes ignore some of the symptoms or ignore your body? Because sometimes it's okay, but
Yeah.
but do you do too much sometimes? Is what I'm asking you.
So we've been fully transparent.
1,000. This is
Okay.
what the podcast is
All
about.
right. There isn't a day when I am not dealing with pain
Wow,
or
okay.
some impact of lupus.
Are some days better than others?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely. And the reason why I say that is because as a result of lupus, several things that I lived through is heart disease, called pericarditis, which is
Wait. You have heart disease? Mm-hmm. I did not know that.
blood disease and liver disease.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So for me, I always go back to this story. I shared it, on one of our our network partners podcast. And that is in 2011, when I was on my deathbed, begging God to save me. And his promise to me was, in the same way that I raised Lazarus from the dead, I'm going to elevate you from this deathbed. My promise to God was, whatever you tell me to do, whatever you tell me to say, wherever you tell me to go, whoever you tell me to say it to, my answer will always be yes. So when I am facing those challenges of not feeling well or not 100%, and I'm not talking about denying
Yeah.
what you feel. I'm not talking about not putting yourself first and taking care of you. What I'm talking about is I'm reminded of the call on my life. And I choose to make the call on my life bigger than the diagnosis in my life.
Amen. I love that.
So that is what fuels me. It's I know every time we step in here, every time I'm at an event where I've been hired to speak I'm there on purpose. It's not about me.
Yeah.
And I am always asking God to walk with me, be with me, inviting him into my space. And so if I say I have faith that I'm healed
Yeah.
and I trust God, then my actions have to line up with that. Now, make no mistake about it. If it's just too much, I don't have a problem saying I can't do it today.
Yeah.
And I've called you before, can we reschedule?
Yeah.
Can we do this? When we're working on some other projects, can we do it another day? Or sometimes it's, I need to take a phone call as opposed to a Zoom call or an in-person meeting, because I can still get my work done, or, stay true to my commitment, but also allow myself the time to rest so I don't have to worry about getting done up or getting prepared. I can take a call from my bed or my couch, wherever I'm resting, and still accomplish the goal for that day.
Okay. Well, now I know. Right.
Yeah.
Now I know, because I didn't know that.
Don't move different, though.
Don't move different? What do you mean?
Now that you know, don't handle me differently.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Okay.
No, I'm going to be more stern. No, I'm just kidding. No, but
You're not the boss of me.
It's good to know that, because at times, I'm real. So at times, I thought that cancellations or pushback time was because I wasn't as important as anything else, right? Okay, this is not as valuable to Elle as it is to me.
Wow.
But now I know that you were dealing with something. But so my request is like, hey, tell me before, be transparent. You know what? I have a headache or I'm tired, so I know it and not make up stories in my head. All right.
That's interesting. I appreciate you telling me that, because I've never had anyone else share that.
Okay.
And I'm sure that's probably been the thought.
Yeah.
So that creates a sense of awareness for me, to be like, especially for those that I'm close with, even like just hanging out with girlfriends. Sometimes I just can't, like, as much as I want to go, I want to celebrate you. I just can't.
Yeah.
I can't. And so, and I always feel guilty.
Yeah.
I always feel guilty.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for transparency relieves guilt. So, but now I know. Yep. So we've been through how you got diagnosed with it and some of the things you're dealing with. So how did it change your life? How did it shift? And how did it push you more into want to be more of a creator versus just like, this is just my life and I'm just going to deal with it and I can't do anything about it? How'd your life shift?
It shifted drastically, but I want to start here. What pushed me into being a creator is that I'm reminded that I'm made in his image and likeness. And so if I'm made in his image and likeness and he's the ultimate creator, then I was also born to create. Right. Like, that is when you hit me up and talk to me about coming on here to be your co-host, I jumped.
Yeah.
I didn't even give it a second thought. Because even though most people know me for my brand Elevate Now, I have always believed that I was born to stand out, and even more so after my near-death life experience, born to create. I've always been a creator, but the way that I create today is different than how I created as my former self. Before, like I said, I've always been a creative and a creator. My mother has, as a child, always had me in the creative arts. So whether it was pageants, I remember being in a pageant and my mother was mortified that pageant mama, that her daughter that she spent all this money on gets up on stage with this elegant, expensive behind nightgown. Yeah, nightgown. Not nightgown.
Nightgown?
No, what's it called? Just evening gown.
Evening gown.
What's the difference? Look, I'm like, nightgown? That don't sound right.
I'm thinking pajamas. Are you in pajamas? How much do pajamas cost?
Right. Evening gown, my bad. And I get up there and I start doing my poses. She, paid for a coach to walk me through everything. And I get up there and I go to pose and I did not shave under my arms. My mother was mortified. Like,
I can see Miss Beverly going off. I've only seen the nice side of her, right? I mean, I haven't seen her, getting to your butt, but
don't play with Bev. She'll cut you with her tongue. Everybody's like, you want to know where I get it from?
That's her. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Don't tip the boat. The boat is cool.
I just see the smile on her face. That's all I see, the smile.
Yes, my mother is amazing. Yeah. She has been, God, like, I'm super grateful for her, because she really has just been an anchor for me.
Yeah.
From my childhood, and we've had like periods, and mother-daughter relationships are can be very complex, but she's just always shown up and reminded me of the things that God has created me
Right.
to be. Like, she sees through that lens. And so that's helped me to continue to be a creator, even in times and seasons when it's been extremely difficult to do that or find my way through it. But I was a child actor, and I've always loved storytelling. I'll share that all the time. Like, storytelling has been a sage for me. It's been an outlet to heal and to overcome some things. So when I moved back to California from Ohio in 2009, I came here with one singular focus, and that was to be finally become a big A-list Hollywood actor. Been acting my whole life, have done tons of projects. I've even worked behind the camera, writing, producing, directing. But my dream had always been, I want to be like the Diane Carrolls. Like, I had, my list of go-tos, and I was like, I want to do that. I know I can do that. I'm good at it. And people would tell me. And I came here and I hit the ground running. And I met this 6'12" dude. No. I met this dude right here.
Oh, I'm at 12. Look at 4.
I'm joking.
I know.
But, we met. I think I responded to a casting call.
Nowcasting.com.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I remember that. Nowcasting.com.
Nowcasting.com.
But before we go there, I have a question I want to ask you. And at my age, I probably forget.
That's cool.
I want to ask you now. So I rephrase this question to people now because it's about fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the question is that how did you overcome the fear of lupus, and how that push you into wanting just to become more? Because I know there's fear there, right? Because anybody that tells me that there's no fear, they're lying, or they're AI,
Yeah.
One or two, they're aliens.
You said they AI.
AI. Yeah. only AI doesn't have fear, right? You're either lying or you're AI.
What
right?
are you?
Are you ChatGPT?
Right.
So, but fear is important because a lot of people don't recognize that it's okay to be fearful. It's okay to have fear. Fear is a part of being human. You can't experience any joy or pleasure without pain or fear, right? Mm-hmm. Walk me through that fearful period, and then how did you come out of that, and how that pushed you to become who you are?
Wow. Really, I could vividly remember like my first day home from the hospital. I had been in ICU for almost a month.
Okay.
And during that time, there were things that I had to learn how to do again, like very simple things. I didn't deal with paralysis or anything, but being in ICU, being bedridden for nearly a month, going through very toxic treatments. I had to start chemotherapy inpatient because that's how bad the lupus had gotten, where at that point I had already been living with lupus for 11 years and had never even heard of them using chemotherapy as a treatment. And so coming out of that, there was this fear of, one, am I going to be okay? Because before that episode that landed me in the emergency room, I was just with you and the entire cast for a table read for a project that you had cast me in and we were preparing for. So there wasn't any indicator for me that something, like there was a perfect storm happening in my body. The only sign that I had days later leading up to being admitted to the emergency room was that I had a stomach ache. And I just figured like, oh, I probably ate something bad, or maybe I didn't eat enough, dealing with hunger pains. I remember sitting through church and just having a severe stomach pain. Went home. My mom made some soup. I got in the bed. My husband was like, you good? I'm like, yep. And that was it. And then that Monday morning, I woke up vomiting blood. And so everything that felt normal suddenly became abnormal, and I found myself in this storm. So coming out of that and being at home, I had gotten used to having the nurses and the doctors
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
specialists, and I was in isolation. So they kind of had me, away from other patients, and you had to have hazmat,
Yeah.
attire to come in my room and all of that, because they had like the infectious disease doctors there. It was a lot of guessing.
Yeah, yeah.
They didn't know at first. So I don't know that I feel like I had a great team of doctors, not initially, but by the end of it, it was great. But I don't know that I feel like they equipped me well enough to navigate life after.
Yeah.
So that was just the beginning.
Yeah.
It was like the process, the middle that I wasn't prepared for. So simple things like just taking a shower. I was super afraid of. Now, I'm not afraid of that now, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I have moments where if I have a sharp pain, like a chest pain, and it's in the area of my heart, I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, am I having a heart attack? Because unfortunately, lupus puts you at a greater risk of heart disease and heart attacks. And then knowing that I have a known documented condition called pericarditis, which is inflammation around the heart, there's always that fear. Like, I don't get on roller coasters. There's certain things that I don't do, even though like I know I need to work out. Sometimes I get scared because when I start working out and I feel that chest pain, it's like, okay, now I'm older now also. Right. So I'm over 50. So it's all these things. So yes, there are plenty of times where fear can rise, and I just have to navigate through that and just remember that God's got me and do what I can. And if that means resting or speaking up, I don't have no problem going to the ER now. I hate it. I don't enjoy the process because what ends up happening is the minute that they read your medical record and see you have lupus, whatever it is that's going on with you, even if it's not related to the disease itself, it's lupus. And then they just give you steroids and send you home.
Well, side note, I would not be scaring you or hiding in a corner or
Thank you.
doing any pranks on you.
I appreciate it. Because I will swing. I will swing.
Well, that's just to protect your heart, right? Yeah. I'm like, well.
Because I'm a swing. Because it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's, fear is, also, and I would be doing a disservice if I didn't even mention this, but the other part of it is the things that you don't see or feel. So remember I mentioned the blood disease, right? It's called thrombocytopenia.
Yeah.
And essentially what that means is that you have a low platelet count.
Yeah.
So when I got sick in 2011, my platelets were at 8,000. And the normal healthy range is 400,000 to 500,000. Yeah. So at 8,000, I was already near death. I was already hemorrhaging. Had to have emergency surgery to identify and stop the internal bleed. But before that could happen, I had to have platelet plasma and blood transfusions because my platelets were too low. So I wouldn't have been able to withstand the surgery. Yeah. So there isn't necessarily a pain that you feel. It doesn't necessarily come with fatigue. There's not like a warning sign. Now that I do know, like I'll look for bruises. Like if I bruise easy, if I just bump up against something, sometimes I wake up and just have spontaneous bruising. And that's an indicator to me that, my platelets might be a little low, but I don't have a test at home. Like I have a heart monitor at home. I have a blood pressure cup at home, but I don't have any device or mechanism at home that would immediately tell me your platelets are low and then low enough that you're entering the danger zone. That can only be discovered by a blood test and going to the doctor or emergency room.
Man, it's something to say about someone who's a survivor and who has been through a lot of mess, right? A lot of stuff. And people really don't see, we don't wear the disease on our face because people can't see. And in that, it's something that I've never really talked about myself, right? So like me, I look healthy, so about 2 years ago, I was told I had kidney disease, right?
Really?
Stage 2, right?
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Wow.
So, but we don't wear that stuff because we know that there's something greater, right? And mine was caused by high blood pressure, and then about 5 years ago, I had a surgery that I went through, but I was popping ibuprofen, right? And ibuprofen is bad for the kidneys,
Yep.
right? I was popping like candy,
Yep.
so that led to me having stage 2 kidney disease, right?
Wow.
But these are things that push us and motivate us and have us live with no excuses,
Yeah.
right? And I would say it's a bit unfortunate that because we don't wear it on our face, we're not taking seriously about what we're experiencing in our bodies.
Yep.
All right. But not knowing that having support there by anybody, by people will help us heal and be better and not experience, the pain, the hurt, the disappointment, all that, because once we're battling someone about how we feel,
Yeah.
that causes stress in our body,
Yep.
which makes how we feeling a lot worse.
Yep.
Right. So my thing is really, just because someone doesn't wear their dis-ease on their face does not mean they're not experiencing or it's not serious.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We can't always see depression. We can't always see anxiety, but our body keeps the score. Right. So is in with the episode where we talked about having people in your life will make or break you, right? You have to figure out who is that person that's going to be there for you.
Yeah.
So it's important that you surround yourself with people that's going to help you heal, right? That's going to provide that living water, because of course God can do it, but then you have people in your life that can help God's plan.
Absolutely.
For your life.
Absolutely.
Right? Help you heal, help you be whole. Because I believe that we are designed to heal, right? God gave us the ability to heal every disease that we have, but it's up to us, right? So it's not just the food we eat, the people around us, it's also how we think about it.
Yeah, your
And-
environmental conditions also have an impact on.
Right.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to say, I had kidney disease because I'm like, you know what, I'm accepting it. I'm calling it. I'm making it real.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's real, but it's something that I was always told that it can be reversed. Right. I started at stage 3, but now I'm back at stage 2. Right. But that's because I had to make some changes.
Yeah.
Right. But I just mentioned that because, we don't always wear it on our face. All right.
No, we don't. And you said some very powerful, poignant things that I really hope people are listening to, is that it is so vitally important when you, just for our overall health, whether you have been diagnosed with something or not, it's super important to have people around you who are empathetic. They show compassion. They are committed to doing whatever they can do to help you navigate, because they come in seasons. Like though I live with lupus every day, I don't have a flare up every day.
Yeah.
I might be experiencing symptoms as a result of the disease, but a flare up is like, an elevated version of a lot of different symptoms. Right. But I know there are times when I won't share what I'm feeling or going through, because I don't want to be a burden.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to, give me a pity party, but I also don't want to be judged.
Right.
I don't want what I'm feeling to be minimized by someone who does not understand or doesn't want to take the time to understand.
Yeah.
So, some of the things that I deal with sometimes as well, you go and do whatever. You show up here, you show up there. Just because I'm showing up, just because I'm working, just because I'm creating, just because I'm doing, doesn't mean that it is in absence or void of dealing with lupus.
Does it doing make you feel better sometimes?
Mentally, yes.
Yeah.
Mentally and emotionally.
Yeah, 'cause you're not just
I feel
sitting
like
there in
it's
it,
the one thing that I have control
Right.
over in living with a disease that is super unpredictable.
Wow, unpredictable. Wow.
It is very unpredictable. You can't You don't control. Lupus is an autoimmune disease, which simply means that your body is fighting itself.
Yeah.
Where your immune system, a healthy immune system, is designed to protect you from foreign antibodies and invaders that come into. So if you develop, get a virus, if you're exposed to bacteria, your immune system in a healthy person goes to war. I always give this example of, think about, people who are in the military and they're on base. They have a base that they're protecting. They have personnel on that base that they're protecting. They're on the front lines away from the base to protect everything and everyone that's on the base from the enemy that's trying to infiltrate. Right? But in a person who has lupus, those soldiers actually turn on the very thing that they're supposed to protect.
Wow.
So then you got the foreign antibody coming in, but then you also got your immune system that's turning on you. So now you're completely susceptible and at risk for, a myriad of different things. And so for me, being able to do things even when I don't feel good gives me a sense of peace.
Right.
And that might sound crazy, but it's like, yes, I'm hurting. No, I don't feel 100%. Driving to LA just feels like such a task a lot of times, but I give myself something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like, it probably sounds crazy to hear, I'm rewarding myself for surviving the day or the week, or you made it through this, you pushed through that. Give yourself something that you give yourself the opportunity to enjoy something that you like to do, or be around others whose spirit and their joy is infectious and it's just going to help to raise your energy and make you feel good, because lupus is always going to be there.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people have dreams, goals, and visions, but they manufacture stuff to keep them from not moving forward.
Yeah.
Right. I'm tired because I worked all day, or I don't feel like doing this, I don't feel like doing that. But if someone like you can push through a diagnosed disease versus how you feel, then for other people there's no freaking excuse. Right?
I don't want to do that though.
No. What I'm saying is that I'm saying that the excuses that people use are, I want to use the right word here, they're BS, right?
Got you.
Because if you have this dream of writing a screenplay, doing a movie, starting a business, graduating from college, whatever it is, all right? If you have this goal, this dream, and you let, I'm tired, I don't feel like it, I want to watch this Netflix series or whatever, get in the way of that, then how serious is your dream, right?
I think for some people there's an underlying root. That's just that's just the symptom of something. So for me, I haven't always been this way with this journey of lupus. Like, I had to develop strategies and mechanisms.
We all do.
And I had to just make decisions, right? But on any given day, the fear is still there.
Right.
And
I had to, despite the fear, though.
I act despite the fear, but I had to learn how to do that.
Right.
So the way that the fear shows up is, I'm tired, I don't feel good. There's something underlying under there that sometimes people, it's not just about them being lazy. It's not just about them being more committed to their comfort than their dreams. Now, I'm not saying this is not for everyone, but there are some people who literally are grappling with fear, and there's an underlying root to that, but they themselves either haven't identified it, or they know it and they're afraid to face it, or they don't have the tools or the resources or the community that will help them to face it. Again, like, I was raised in the church.
On a bigger scale, right? I'm talking about on a smaller scale, right? So even in, and I'm gonna get on a little soapbox here, all right?
No, go ahead.
So even the person who complains about, I have body aches, or I can't touch my toes, or I would like to look like that person, but get your ass up and go to the gym. Why not? Because you want to sleep. So you're saying that your sleep is much more important than your health, right? You wanted to enjoy that, that movie or that whatever is much more important than your success, or much important than you getting to your child's baseball game or football game, right? It's just the little things that people use to avoid changing something big in their life, right?
But that's what I'm saying. There has to be an underlying root. We don't know. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know anyone. I don't think I've ever met anyone who just dreams of having a mediocre average life.
Right.
Right. So let's say that person does have these desires to do these things, but for whatever reason, it's easier for them to choose
Comfort.
Right.
It's a decision.
But what's the why? There's always a why.
Right.
To what it is. So I think I just take a different approach. Like, I don't accept mediocrity, but by the same token, I just give grace. What I will do is challenge people. I'll challenge them on their habits because I want people to do that for me. There are times when it's overwhelming. Like right now I have my hands in a lot of pots.
A lot of pots. a lot of hot pots.
A lot of hot pots. But then there are days when it's like, you know what? I'm not doing a dang thing. Nothing. And then I've had to navigate through feeling guilty. So as a 51-year-old woman, I'm not subscribing to hustle culture. I've been doing that my whole adult life.
All right, I'm going to pause you real quick. Because last episode, you said you're 52.
Did I?
You did.
What I meant to say was I'll be 52 this year.
Perfect. Okay, so I was confused.
Correction for if you watched the last episode and you heard me say that I was 52. Go back and watch the last episode or any episode where I'm talking about my age. If you ever hear me say 52, the intention is that I will be.
When they watch it, you'll be 52.
No, I won't be 52 till later this year, October.
Well, this thing lives forever, so.
So don't put a time on it.
Don't put a time on it.
Listen, I'm in my 50s. That's what you need to know. Okay. You made me lose my train of thought.
Don't know, but I'll ask my next question.
Yeah.
So entrepreneurship, and being a creative and being all things creativity, and just watching how people have like migrated and your energy has brought people into your vibration, right? How's it been navigating entrepreneurship with having lupus and being a creative, and how have other people responded to you once they know that you have this you're surviving lupus?
It's been frustrating.
Okay.
I'm not. What I've had to learn how to not do is compare myself to someone else, my journey, my business, my offers. Because what I was doing was I would look at somebody else's picture as kind of the gauge for how I should be performing as an entrepreneur, as a creator, especially as someone who's really skilled in a lot of different areas and has accomplished a lot, but still feeling like my personal results weren't matching. It was like a complete disconnect. And the reality is like I don't have the leisure of being on a plane every day, going to this place and that place to speak on stages, or just that I don't have the luxury of, even heck, as a wife and a mom, I don't have the luxury of hustling 24/7. I don't have it. Some of the things that people say, go hard, go home. Go hard or go home. Listen here with your militant behind. I'm talking to you, the go hard or go home people. My hard is more than enough.
All right.
And I had to give myself permission to say it's more than enough. And I don't know what God has for me, but what I'm going to do is always show up 1,000%. I'm going to honor what he's given me. I'm going to honor the call. I'm going to use my gifts. because they're bigger than me.
Yeah.
But it just has been, man, so frustrating sometimes because there's a lot of times I feel like I'm so far behind.
Yeah.
And there are periods when I can't work.
Yeah.
And the work that I do, the type of work that I do, is not something that I can necessarily always hand off to someone else to do it. You know, I have a personal brand, and part of my personal brand is that people know, like, and trust me.
Yeah.
So they hire me to produce their content. They hire me. And in those instances, that's not work that I can pass off to someone else, no matter how skilled they are, especially if a person is hiring you to execute on that skill because of who you are.
Yeah.
So there are times when things don't get done or I have to pause. And then when I pause, I feel like I'm starting back from square one again. And it can be super frustrating.
Yeah. And I also realize that a lot of times people steal from you. They steal.
Oh, you seen that?
They steal from you emotionally. They steal from you physically.
Yep.
You know, they just steal.
They
from
try
you,
to steal
right?
your IP.
Yeah.
All that.
Everything.
What's up?
Steal your bag.
They steal your bag.
That's why I said that.
Okay, I got you. Our boy Jonathan, John Balima up in here.
The second time this week I've popped in, you're all recording, so keep it up.
It's all good.
So what do you want people to know about you and about lupus?
Lupus doesn't define me. I'm still KL Jones. And despite the physical impact of lupus, I'm still a human being.
Yeah.
I'm still a woman who has purpose. I'm still a woman who has a voice. I'm still a woman who loves to create and tell stories, and I'm passionate about it. I'm great at it. I enjoy helping other people uncover their it factor and their secret sauce to be able to tell their stories and make an impact and create movements and do all of these things. So even though I've shared a very intimate part of my life and my health, and it's something that I've done for years, but I started pulling away from it because I started being referred to as the lupus lady, right? Like I was the lupus advocate. I would survey my audience on social media and be like, when you think of me, what do you think about? If you had to see me doing one thing, what would that thing be? And it always went back to lupus. So then I was angry.
You don't like that?
No.
Okay.
Lupus doesn't define me.
Yeah.
It's a part of who I am. It's not even a part of who I am. It's a part of my life.
For your story.
It's a part of my story. And even though it has played a really big role, I would say the greatest gift that lupus gave me is that I'm here today doing the work that I do. Yeah. Because if that moment hadn't happened back in March of 2011, I don't know what my life would have been. So it was the gift that changed the trajectory of my life that still allows me to tell stories. If I wanted to go and act today, I could. But I feel like I have an even deeper and greater purpose in the work that I do. And that's so fulfilling to me.
Well, thank you for lending your talents and lending your story and lending your energy to the podcast, not just the episode, but the whole podcast, right? And I believe that it's been elevated since you've been around, but that's part of your brand, you know, elevate. And I know this is Lupus Awareness Month, but this is your life every day of the month.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's an honor to have you here, and also honor to be a part of that journey.
Thank you.
And would it being your month in your life, I'm gonna give you the last words and close us out.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. This was, we wanted to do something different. Usually it's both of us. We have a topic and we talk about it and we have our banter and go back and forth. But it was super important to have this interview style show because sometimes I can just, put information out. But it was also interesting to be able to hear your perspective, just even personally, how you've been impacted by maybe some of the decisions that I've had to make as a result of lupus without me communicating that to you.
Right.
And you feeling, so that creates a deeper level of awareness for me. So I really appreciate that. I absolutely love what I do here with you and being on this podcast. It has been a gift in more ways than one. And it came at a time when I wasn't expecting it, but absolutely needed it. And I'm grateful for you all. We both are. For all of you that join us week after week and you tune in, for those who are asking questions, who are engaging with us, who are supporting, who are sharing our clips, sharing our episodes, it all makes it worth it. So every day that I'm showing up when I don't feel 100% or feel like myself, those are the things that make the journey so much more valuable, and it makes me appreciate it even more. I want to encourage you to learn more about lupus. If you have someone in your life who is experiencing symptoms and they haven't gotten any answers, be patient with them. Be the support that they need, because I can tell you firsthand, it is a scary journey to know that something is wrong with you, but not know and feel like you're not being heard or seen or given the space to be supported as you explore what's going on with you. There are a ton of different nonprofit organizations such as Lupus LA. I've worked with them personally for years. The Lupus Foundation of America and the LRA, which is the Lupus Research Alliance. All are nonprofit organizations that are doing incredible work to help to support the lupus community and beyond. Check with your local chapters to see how you can get involved. Go volunteer at your kid's school, because remember I said the onset of lupus can start as early as 14 years old. And so there needs to be more support even in the school systems to support children who are experiencing fatigue. Everybody that says they're tired is not lazy, right? Yeah. So there's things that are going on, and there are a lot of different symptoms, but those organizations, you can check out their websites to learn more about lupus, the symptoms, what to look for, how to support yourself, how to support your loved ones or, people in your community. This episode is brought to you by Elevated Beauty, which is powered by Obly, my partner company, and a portion of the proceeds from every sale this month, in the month of May for Lupus Awareness Month, will be donated to those organizations to help continue the fight to raise awareness, education, and get more funding, because we desperately need it for this community. Thank you so much for watching. This is the Born to Create podcast. I'm your girl, K.L. Jones, co-host with my brother, Anthony Rudolph. We were born to create, so do not put us in a box, and don't you dare allow anybody else to put you in one, because you too were born to create.
See you guys
We'll see you on
soon.
the next episode.
Bye.